Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Boss Economics World, the only place where we take the dismal science of economics and turn it into a full-blown tragicomedy. Today, we're diving headfirst into the economic dumpster fire that is the United Kingdom in 2025. Oh yes, folks, the land of tea, crumpets, and apparently, vanishing living standards. Grab your calculators, your tissues, and maybe a stiff drink, because this one's gonna hurt. Let's break it down, shall we? From the surface level chaos to the deep, dark economic abyss beneath, because here at Boss Economics World, we don't just scratch the surface, we dig until we hit bedrock, or a tax bill, whichever comes first. First up, let's talk about the big man himself, Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Oh, Keir, remember when you swept into office in July 2024, promising to make working people better off? You were riding high on wage growth of over 5%, a full 3 percentage points above inflation, which was chilling at a cool 2.2%. The headlines were singing your praises, the champagne was flowing, and it looked like Labour had finally cracked the code to economic prosperity. But oh, how the mighty have fallen. Fast forward to August 2025, and the party's over, folks. Real wages, the money you actually have left after inflation takes its pound of flesh, are growing at a measly 1.5% year on year, according to the Office for National Statistics. And if that's not bad enough, Deutsche Bank is predicting a low of 0.5% by the end of the year, while Santander is going full doomsday profit with a forecast of just 0.2%. That's right, folks, we're talking about the weakest wage growth since mid-2023, when the cost of living crisis had us all eating baked beans straight from the can. But wait, there's more. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, inflation decides to crash the party like an uninvited guest who brought their own foghorn. Figures are set to show inflation hitting 3.8% in July 2025, the highest since January 2024, and the Bank of England is already bracing for a whopping 4% by September. Meanwhile, private sector pay growth has dipped below 5% for the first time since early 2022, and it's only going downhill from here. So, let's do the math, shall we? Rising prices, slowing wages, congratulations, Britain, you're officially back in the economic squeeze machine. And this time, it's personal. Now, let's zoom out from this surface-level chaos and dig into the juicy economic issues lurking beneath. Because, folks, this isn't just about a few pesky percentage points, it's a masterclass in how to tank an economy while pretending everything's fine. Issue number 1, the labor market is cooling faster than a British summer. With private sector pay growth slowing and firms bracing for higher payroll taxes and minimum wage hikes, thanks to decisions made in April 2025, businesses are stuck between a rock and a hard place. According to the EY Item Club, even if companies offer below-inflation pay rises of, say, 3%, they're still looking at a 5% increase in payroll bills, largely due to changes in employers' national insurance contributions. And what do businesses do when costs go up? Oh, the usual, pass it on to you, the consumer. A survey by the Chartered Management Institute found that a quarter of private sector firms have already jacked up their prices, while only 1 in 5 dared to cut wage growth. So, buckle up, Britain, because your grocery bill is about to look like a phone number. But wait, there's more pain on the horizon. Enter Chancellor Rachel Reeves, stage left, with a £40 billion hole in the public finances equivalent to $54.3 billion for our friends across the pond. And how does she plan to fill this gaping chasm? Why, with tax hikes, of course. Because nothing says economic recovery like squeezing the already squeezed British taxpayer. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Boss Economics, didn't Labour promise to lift living standards by the end of Parliament? Oh, they did, folks, they did. But here's the kicker, delivering on that promise is looking about as likely as me winning the lottery, and I don't even play. Why? Because the UK's productivity growth has been flatter than a pancake since the global financial crisis of 2008. Without a miracle in productivity, living standards are going nowhere fast. And with consumers saving more of their income than ever before, thanks to a lingering post-pandemic caution, household consumption, the engine of the economy, is stuck in neutral. Now, let's talk about the Bank of England, shall we? Those fine folks in Threadneedle Street are watching this inflation spike like hawks, but don't expect them to ride to the rescue just yet. According to Gabriella Willis, UK economist at Santander, the bank is likely to hold off on cutting interest rates until February 2026, with another cut in April 2026, once the inflation dragon is safely slain. But here's the problem, folks: by the time those rate cuts roll around, the damage will already be done. Households are already dipping into their savings to buffer against rising prices, as Sanjay Raja, chief UK economist at Deutsche Bank, pointed out. And with tax hikes looming in the autumn budget, the average Brit is going to feel like they're being taxed, squeezed, and inflation to death all at the same time. But wait, there's more. Let's not forget the political fallout, because nothing spices up an economic crisis like a good old-fashioned polling disaster. Labour, once the darlings of the electorate, is now trailing behind Nigel Farage's Reform UK party in national opinion polls. And why wouldn't they be? Between tax rises, spending cuts, and the ongoing saga of irregular immigrants arriving on small boats, Keir Starmer's government is starting to look like a circus without a ringmaster. And here's the kicker, folks: Labour's entire pitch was built on lifting living standards, but with real wages stagnating and inflation soaring, that promise is looking more like a punchline than a policy. Now, let's zoom out even further, because this isn't just a UK problem, folks, it's a global cautionary tale. The UK's woes are a textbook example of what happens when you mix structural economic weaknesses, like stagnant productivity, with short-term policy blunders, like tax hikes during a cost-of-living crisis. And let's not forget the global context. According to the International Monetary Fund's latest World Economic Outlook, global inflation is expected to average 5.8% in 2025, with advanced economies like the UK bearing the brunt of supply chain disruptions and energy price shocks. Meanwhile, the OECD reports that productivity growth in advanced economies has slowed to an average of 0.7% annually since 2010, compared to 2.1% in the decade before the financial crisis. So, while the UK might be the star of today's economic horror show, it's far from alone on the stage. So, what's the takeaway, folks? For the average Brit, it's simple: brace yourselves, because the economic squeeze is back, and it's meaner than ever. For Keir Starmer and Labour, it's a wake-up call: deliver on your promises, or get ready to hand the keys to number 10 to Nigel Farage. And for the Bank of England, it's a tightrope walk: keep rates too high, and you choke the economy; cut too soon, and inflation runs wild. But here at Boss Economics World, we're not just here to point out the problems, we're here to remind you that economics is the art of making tough choices, and right now, the UK is choosing poorly. And that's all for today, folks. Tune in next time, when we'll be dissecting another economic disaster with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Until then, keep your wallets tight, your savings close, and your sense of humor even closer, because in this economy, laughter might just be the only thing that's still free. This is Boss Economics World, signing off.